Welcome back to Facts and Foolishness with me, your Auntie Joy, and Uncle Kev. Today we have our wonderful mental health experts back with us to talk about the effects of social media. We want to talk about the effects of social media on our youth as well as our adults. And once again, I'm going to introduce you to our panelists. They are our amazing mental health panel: Gina McKinney, Tanel Jones, Judy Foster, and Dr. Sterling Watson. So, what we want to do today is we're just going to talk roundtable style, and let's just jump right in, because everywhere we go, when we're out and about, there's somebody on the phone like this. If we're walking down the street, if we're at a restaurant, on the subway, I mean, literally, people are walking like this on their phones. Little children, if they, the iPad has become the babysitter. And then as they get a little older, as soon as they learn how to navigate the internet, they're on Instagram and they're on, TikTok and everything else. And oftentimes unsupervised. And a lot of the things that you think would be solely seen with children, you sometimes see that with adults. So what's happening? How is this affecting our psyche? This whole internet phenomenon, this whole social media takeover of our lives.
Well, I'll start by saying before we get into the negatives, there are some good things that have come from social media. We've all benefited from connecting with old friends from elementary school, high school. We've connected with people. So that's a great thing. We can find jobs, we can sell things on Facebook, networking. There's just so many things that we can do, and people that we can speak to that we ordinarily maybe would not have spoken to if it weren't for social media. So there are some good things that have come from this phenomenon, but probably a lot more negative things have come from it as well. And I'm sure we'll kind of get into a whole bunch of different things, but just, this idea of getting likes and being perfect and being flawless and showing people our best side, and nobody really shows the bad things that we're going through in life. So it sets this unrealistic expectation for people that are watching and people who are viewing your story, that this is how everybody should be living, and if not, you're a loser, basically. And so it puts a lot of pressure on people emotionally to level up to the unrealistic expectation that other people are putting out on social media. So I just wanted to add that piece.
I appreciate what you're saying. I think that, in the work that I do with college students, the fear of missing out, things that they talk about a lot, and so people will feel distressed if they see their peers kind of post stuff, and they're not at the party or they're not at the event, and it will create, kind of this feeling of social alienation, if you're not posting stuff on social media, from that to even being cyberbullied, those kind of things occur as well, where people, we go directly to the chat to see what folks are talking about. we want the tea. And so, the cyberbullying occurs. There are so many different things that I think happens. The bigger issue, I think, for me, that I've witnessed a lot of is kind of those unrealistic comparisons with regards to body image. You've got the fitness influencers, looking flawless. Some of them are spray painted and airbrushed or whatever the case may be. But that's what they live. That's their life. We live a life where we got 9 to 5s, and we don't have a special cook to cook all of our meals and meal plan for us, or sponsors to kind of provide us supplements. So, it's kind of unrealistic to think that we'll look like that. But a lot of young people get caught up in this idea that I have to look like that in order to be adequate, in order to be fulfilled.
And I have a question. if I can, I'm gonna direct it to you, Gina, since you were about to respond, and then you can add on to whatever you're gonna say. But does social media really create an environment of connectivity, or does it actually end up creating more isolation than connectivity with people?
Well, it depends on the individual. It was designed to create connectivity, and it did do just that, but everything in moderation. So yes, it does create isolation, social isolation, and it leads to an addiction. Anything that you do more than you need to do over time, and it's really it really sets people up for addiction. So just checking your email, checking Instagram, checking Facebook to see what's going on, even if you're not someone who posts, but just keeping up with what's going on, who said what, hearing about, this is where we talk about even vicarious trauma. There's so many people that said, stop looking at the amount of people who died. I remember during COVID just crying after reading every story, to the point where I had to put down the phone and said I needed to take a break. This is what happens to our youth. They will read, this trend. And yes, it sets up a false sense of who people really are, of what life really is, because this is what we want to portray. And yes, and a lot of times people set they validate who they are. Their self-worth is based on likes. And that is very dangerous, because that leads to, as Dr. Watson said, bullying. It leads to suicidality. It leads to so many things that are just not healthy, because it's difficult to regulate that world in terms of what's too much. You have to have some level of self-agency, or you have to have parents around you who are regulating how much time you're spending on the internet or on the phone. Today, I still have to regulate my 25-year-old to say, you're at a table, please engage with others, because you're on your phone. Like, what in the world could you be reading or being, told or being learned in the moment that you concurrently would having a conversation? It's addictive.
We have to do the same thing, man. When we're out to dinner or I'm with my children, it's like we have to do everybody stack your phone, or you're gonna have to pay for dinner, because they will literally be on the phone. So yeah, it's pervasive. It's absolutely pervasive.
Yeah, and I'll definitely piggyback what Gina is talking about, this concept of empathic distress or secondary trauma. And that is when we read other people's experiences of hardships, and then we kind of take that on and then develop our own problems, such as sleep problems, stress, difficulty with eating, difficulty with regulating our own emotions. And so the sharing of those stories, and so there are a lot of negative things people post, and I know people get excited when they see somebody on social media fighting, and they share that fight, or we see people get shot. And even just not with social media, but the news, like any type of media where you're watching that play over and over and over again, can be very detrimental to how you function. And so yeah, I think it is very problematic, and people aren't mindfully on it. It's just, I'm just kind of scrolling, right? So there's this autopilot kind of concept where they're already feeling stress, and that's not necessarily engaging anyway. It's just kind of feeding into their stress response. So
yeah, I can relate to all of that. Interesting. Another question: how do we protect ourselves from racism online?
I don't know if we can protect ourselves from racism.
I agree.
It seems like it's rampant also.
Here's the reality about racism, y'all, is that it exists. There's no stopping it. It will continue to exist. The challenge for us is how we respond to it, right? And so, yeah, we don't have to follow, platforms, or people who have racist ideas, beliefs, or values. We can literally change the algorithm by liking things that are like-minded You know, here's a case, an example, you know, that's not specific to politics or racism or prejudice, but because I'm into fitness, love fitness, you know, workout enthusiasts. So I follow a lot of people who work out. And what I witnessed was a shift in people sharing workouts to workouts being these ridiculous displays that, you know, were unnecessary, you know. And I found myself saying, why am I watching this? This isn't, you know, anything that's important to me. So I started to not like those things and like other things that were more in alignment with, you know, the things that I would like to see, or things that would, you know, disturb my peace, so to speak, like Judy shared earlier. And so I think we have to change the algorithm. I think that's the only way to reduce to some degree our access or our exposure to some of those things. But the reality is that it's going to find its way into our scrolling, if, you know, we are going to be scrolling it, because it's out there, it's prevalent. It is America. It is America.
So we just have to find the wherewithal
it's the same
to walk away. Just either put the phone down or keep scrolling and look elsewhere.
I think I also like to add that some context, and I think we all have to grow in our context, and all have to grow in our ability to cope with what we hear. So if there's something that we hear that's disturbing, we do need to speak to someone to get some context. Because the one thing I always try to remind myself, as well as others, particularly those who I am working with in therapy, is that one thing you want to understand, as horrible as it is to hear, and I would say this, Judy said this perfectly in another forum, your thoughts are not valid always. It's not what you believe. So what people are saying is not true always. And people are going to say whatever it is necessary to protect their space for peace. Fear is part of it. And people will say things, right? And there's a nature of a lack of logic that's part of it. And if you can allow yourself to just entertain the fact that what people are saying, it's not accepting it or internalizing it immediately, but really putting it somewhere else and saying, this is someone's opinion or group of opinion, and it's based on whatever their issue is, right? And I understand it's perpetuated and it's systematic and it's within policy, but this is the issue. It is, like Dr. Watson said, it's really about how, it's the way that you allow yourself to be exposed to it, in the way that you take it in. So sometimes you have to limit yourself. Sometimes you have to change your algorithm so that you are not exposed to it. There's no shame in saying, this is just not my forte. I'm not good with this. Too much of this makes me angry, hurts me, and makes me depressed. That's fine. It's really about being honest with where you are. But there is a perspective about it. It's really about people trying to maintain where they're at. And you have to understand, as much as we're trying to gain, people are trying to protect and maintain. And they'll do it at any cost, even delude people into thinking that people have a right to be who they are, and that there's white privilege and that it needs to be sustained. And they'll say, I'm just saying, if people will do that because they're fearful of letting go. I'm not justifying it. They're fearful of letting go. So there are folks who will maintain it. And it's insidious on a micro level all the way through a macro level. It is just all over. It is what it is. And that's why it's important that we really act when we are exposed to it, that we talk about it, that we get context, and not reinforcing it. You got to be careful about negatively reinforcing things. It's really about context and understanding that despite what's being said, we're greater than
and Joy, I like to go around and ask each person to respond. How does a person recognize when they are addicted to social media?
When you bring your phone to the bathroom, like I've done before.
Okay.
I want to say I don't think it's as easy for our youth, and we know with our youth that suicidality has definitely increased as a result of all social media. And I think sometimes we may be only thinking about Facebook and Instagram, but there's so many other platforms that our youth are attached to, the underground platforms that actually promote suicide. Because I've worked with kids who they have those websites, they have those social media. And then if you look at TikTok, there's the dangers of doing these challenges, right, that we know can get them killed or cause other people to die. And so it's not as easy for our youth. And I think that's where we're seeing a lot of the mental health challenges and complications around social media.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, what are, you mentioned some other sites, what are things that parents should look for if to be aware if their children are being sucked into too much of what's going on social media that isn't good for them?
I think parents should just ask the question. I mean, they need to pay attention, look at behavior, but parents just need to assume that they are exposed to things that aren't healthy, helpful, productive, and ask the question like, what are you looking at? In the most non-judgmental way as possible. Parents really need to understand that in this particular battle, you have to come up with different strategies, and it's really about, I just want to know what you're looking at. I just want to tell me what's up. I know this is out there. How is this affecting you? What do you deal with? And ask open questions in a loving, compassionate, and supportive way to get and open this platform where you can talk about it, right? Just talk about it, and let's know. And then watch behavior, and watch. Pay attention.
Right. Most of the danger is in the chat, right? It's then there's these kids' private DMs where they might be communicating with an adult that is luring them into, being trafficked, or just so many different things. So yes, you might look at what they like, but I would say if you can, access their DM.
I'm glad that you said that, because, the reality is that online predators do exist, and I can tell you when I worked I used to work in a prison a long time ago, on the sexual offenders reception team. I can't remember it was SORT. And I've met a number of folks who got caught up being in those chat rooms with those young people, where they can kind of groom and they can kind of orient them to, or influence them in ways that could be really dangerous. And so, that is a real concern. And it's especially a major concern right now because human trafficking is still at a relatively high level. So we have to be cautious and have these conversations, with our children about the risks, about the privacy risks as well. I think one of the things that I've stopped doing, I haven't posted as much as I used to with regards to physical likeness, because now with AI, and digital imaging, people could take your face and now your face is somewhere, and you didn't got caught up in a crime that you didn't commit because somebody just stole your face. So those are kind of things that I think we have to kind of communicate to our children with regards to their online presence, just have the honest conversations.
But then I have a slightly off-topic question for everybody. What about the people that use social media to air their grievances, where people are really like, oh my goodness, TMI, number one, and let me hear what you think about that, because there's so many people where I'm like, okay, I have to keep scrolling because I can't. This is too much.
Kind of piggyback off of what you're saying, as far as when you're saying things on social media that you don't like, that are causing you distress. I want everybody to accept that we can protect our peace. I have unfollowed people. I have unfriended people who post certain things, especially around, I mean, there's election time where you're going to start seeing a whole bunch of stuff. COVID time, you started seeing a whole bunch of stuff, and just regularly write videos of fights and violence. I will unfollow, not necessarily unfriend, but just unfollow so I don't see these things. A lot of animal cruelty, things I just don't want to see. You have to create boundaries and know when to shut those things off. But we can also keep scrolling as well. So if I see something, there's a lot of people who share TMI. There are people that just share I'm getting up in the morning, I'm brushing my teeth, I'm doing, keep scrolling. And don't feed into that. It's just how I protect my peace.
Well, coming from the other person's perspective, like, is this really a place for someone to be like, oh, I can't take these cheating women, someone's always doing something, like really like putting business out there. It's like literally I see stuff like that and it's like, whoa, it's like, is this a cry for help? What's happening,
Well, I think like Dr. Watson shared earlier regarding the Tyrese video, I think it was overwhelming for a lot of people to see. I do think that it did help men, even if they didn't speak to it, or even if they were negative. There are many men who felt that. But I think it's important, depending on the mindset. I think some people think they want to share this. It takes a lot of courage to confront internal conflicts, right? And you might not be able to share it with someone next to you, someone in front of you, with a family member. There may be issues of judgment or whatever the case. But when you're speaking into a camera and you're in a room and you're isolated and you want to express yourself, your frustration, you want to feel empowered and emboldened, it's a place to do it. I think the thought about what the responses are going to be is secondary. But I think that the idea of being able to speak openly and feel relevant and feel heard, sometimes that is just the platform to do it. I used to do talk shows early on many years ago, and I was very challenged with doing rapid therapy in a moment with folks who really, would leverage some serious issues at a talk show. And it used to baffle me why people chose to speak about such interpersonal issues in that platform. And sometimes what I saw are these are people who wouldn't talk about them with another person next to them, who would not talk about these issues in a different environment, but they chose a wide open, it was something about just being able to put it out there that gave them a sense of strength, relevancy, courage. And then it's just really wanting to see that other people feel the same way. And getting that feedback really tells people that, yes, people do feel the same way. And it is sometimes a tactic. It's a tactic to out people, to embarrass people, to put people on blast, on Front Street, so other people know. So there are many different reasons why people may do it. And it really is asking the person, what's the motivation behind this?
Yeah. Very interesting.
My last question would be, how do you address online bullying, especially for children? I mean, what methodology should a parent apply when that occurs? Anybody?
I think it's important for parents to have open communication with their kids about if someone is bullying them, and to report things swiftly and to follow through and make sure that there are consequences, because I don't see that there will be any change if we just let people slide doing things like that to other people. As we can see, the suicidality rate has increased, and in-person bullying, but cyberbullying it's really strong right now. So I think we need to address it as soon as possible when it starts happening. But letting our kids know that it's important that you share that with us when it's happening, because that's what's happening is kids are not sharing it when it's happening to them. So
That was going to be my follow-up question. How do you identify when your child is being the victim of cyber? Thank you for that.
Well, I just to add to that really quickly, it's multifaceted. You have to observe behavior, look at how long they're online, if there's changes after they come offline, work, their sleep habits, their eating habits. You look at all of that, and you have to ask questions, and ask direct questions, ask questions next to the question, and ask questions about friends. You can ask hypotheticals to get the conversation going if the child is concerned about talking directly or not willing to talk directly. But the one thing I encourage parents is to assume anything is possible. To never say, not my child, or never to say, it's not possible. Assume every and anything is possible. My daughter, when I finally allowed her, my daughter had 6 different handles. I couldn't keep up. And I appreciate what Tanel, I'm dead serious. And you're correct. I tried to get in her deal. She had 6 different handles. I didn't know which one was which. I finally were getting calls from people, in different states saying, Gina, this is what I saw online that your daughter posted. And that's how, in its community, its family, like, let me know if you see something crazy. If something comes up, please let me know. Because, it's also this, like this social world, wall of silence. Like, we need to protect each other, and they protect each other. And that's why it's so dangerous, because it's unregulated. And this is where parents cannot get to, and that they're in. And it's like Lord of the Flies. They're just talking and encouraging each other, and they don't have the skill or the experience to understand things. So it's important to educate them about any and everything. Just say, look, this is a responsibility about being online. This is what happens. This is what can happen. Private chats. I'm just telling you because I want you to talk to me, but if you don't feel like you can, I want you to have the information that this is what can happen, because my goal is to protect you.
Yeah.
Kevin, can I say one last thing? It's also important for parents to recognize if your child is being bullied, but also if your child is the one bullying other people. Right. I think we spend a lot of time on the other side of it, instead of also just to include that parents need to make sure that their kids aren't the ones being the bully, and signs to look for that as well.
Thank you for that. I hope our audience recognizes the Lord of the Flies reference. Very apropos, but we'll see.
Right.
We appreciate everybody. I guess at this time we get ready to wrap this segment up. Are we, Joy?
Yes, we are. Thank you very much.
Right. If we could go around the panel once again, can everybody tell us when people can reach you? I'd appreciate it. Let's start with Tanel Jones and work our way around, please.
Yes, Tanel O. Jones, LLC at Outlook.com.
Gina McKinney at GMcKinney at quadbh.com.
You can reach me at J Foster Therapy LLC on Instagram.
And you can reach me at dr.s.p.watson at Instagram.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. I'm sure Joy appreciates it. Good information. Always good to have you guys.
Thank you all for coming. As always, we're thrilled to have you join us, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
I promise everybody on the next segment, I'm not going to wear the same shirt.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.